Hello fellow chess players, welcome in the second video of our series, Tactics Explained. The theme I will be covering today is Smothered Mate. I have 3 short introduction videos introducing the Smothered Mate. Then I will show you an opening trap, where you can mate your opponent if he is not aware of the trap. Finally, I have 3 exercises you can make by yourself and I will explain the solution as well. Enjoy this video. Firstly, I want to show you the most basic form of the Smothered Mate. They usually teach the concept of Smothered Mate from these types of position, where there is a knight and the queen attacking the enemy king. First, you play knight to h6 with check. This comes with a double check. The knight and queen are checking the king, so the king has to move. Now, you temporarily sacrifice your queen with queen to g8. The knight is covering the queen, so the king cannot recapture and the rook has to do the job. And after the rook is captured, now knight to f7 is checkmate. It is important to notice that none of black's pieces is protecting the f7 square, otherwise there won't be a checkmate, of course. Another variant of the Smothered Mate is when a bishop is covering the queen instead of the knight. In this example, everything is pointed at the f2 square, so a very natural move to make is queen captures on f2. The king is forced into the corner, and now yet again you temporarily sacrifice your queen with queen to g1 check. So now the bishop is covering the queen, so either the knight or the rook has to recapture, so let's say knight recaptures. Now the knight can jump into f2 and this will be checkmate as he attacks the king and the king is smothering in his own pieces and he has no square to go to. There are other variants of the Smothered Mate as you will see in the following examples. In this position, white can sacrifice his rook by playing rook to h7 check. The rook is protected by the knight, so the king cannot recapture, and this is a pattern that almost always occurs during a Smothered Mate. The king cannot recapture the check-giving piece because the check-giving piece is protected by another piece, so in this example the queen has to recapture. And now the knight can deliver checkmate on f7. So yet again, the black king is smothering in his own pieces and is not able to move. An opening from which Smothered Mate can occur is the Budapest Gambit, which is reached after the moves d4, knight to f6, c4 and now e5, entering the Budapest Gambit. The point is, after white captures the pawn, black plays knight to g4. The main line is bishop to f4, knight to c6 and now knight to f3, bishop to b4 check, white blocks with knight b to d2 and now queen to e7. So black is really pressurizing the pawn on e5 in order to win it back. A common mistake that white players who are not familiar with this opening make is to play a3 in this position. This actually fails to the move knight g captures on e5. The point is, white cannot capture the bishop, because if he captures the bishop, black can simply play knight to d3 checkmate. This is a Smothered Mate because the pawn is pinned to the king, and the white king cannot move because he's smothering in his own pieces. I have 3 exercises prepared for you guys where you need to find a Smothered Mate or use the threat of a Smothered Mate in order to win material. Consider this position for a few seconds or minutes and try to find the best move for white. Everyone should see the discovered check d6. The king has to move and the best square to go to is h8. If the king goes to f8, then white can play knight to g5, threatening mate 1 by playing knight captures on h7, because the d6 pawn is taking away the e7 square for the black king and the queen is controlling this diagonal. In this position, black has to give up the queen for the knight and white simply has a winning position. That is why king to h8 is the best square to go. And if you recognize the pattern of a Smothered Mate, as I have explained to you in the beginning of this video, then the move knight to g5 shouldn't be a hard move to find. For instance, if black plays a silly move like knight captures on c2, I don't know, to fork these two rooks. Then there is a forced mate in 4, starting with knight to f7 check. King has to go here. Now you deliver a double check. King has to go back to h8. You give up the queen. The king cannot recapture because the knight is covering the queen, so rook has to recapture, and now you deliver checkmate on f7. That is why black has to defend against this threat. He can defend by playing rook to f8. Notice that in this position the nature of the position has changed. Black has defended successfully against the mating threat, but now the knight isn't on f3 anymore, but on g5. On g5 the knight is also protecting the h3 square. Also notice that the black queen doesn't have any safe squares to run to. So the combination of the knight on g5 protecting h3 and the queen having no safe squares should learn you that h3 wins the queen. Queen has nowhere to go, so she needs to capture the knight, and now white yet again has a winning position. So this was an example where white can use the threat of a smothered mate in order to win material. The next exercise is maybe a little bit more difficult to find. Once you see the trick, it is a very logic move, but it is something you don't look at immediately. You can try to find it on your own, and otherwise the move is queen captures on g6. Pawn has to recapture. Notice that any other moves with the queen that delivers check, for example queen here, this loses to queen to g4, the queen blocks the check, attacks the king, so you have to trade, and now black has a winning position. And other checks, the king will just simply run away. For example, queen to f2 check, king can come here, queen to e3, king can run away here, queen to b6, and the king is safe. So checking with the queen doesn't work here. Queen captures on g6 does work. And after the pawn recaptures, you simply play king to f4. And now I think this is a very funny checkmate, because all of black his pawns are trapped, and the black king is trapped as well, so he cannot move. The only pawn that can make a move is the g6 pawn, so g5. King captures. Only legitimate move for black is to play g4. Simply king f4. Yet again, the only move that black can make is g3. Now you just capture with checkmate. So king is controlling these squares, pawns attacking the king, and the king is smothering in his own pawns. This final example is the hardest one to find. The key move to win this game is actually a brilliant move. If you are able to find this move on your own, then I believe that you are a really strong chess player. The move you need to find is g4 check. This is kind of a logic move because it is a forcing move and you force the king to h4. But the following move is really a brilliant move, and if you are able to find this, then really I congratulate you. It is bishop to h6, attacking the queen, and just sacrificing your bishop. If the queen ignores this threat and just runs away, let's say queen to d7, then it will be checkmate on the next move. Queen is attacking and the king cannot run. So the queen has to capture. Now yet again, queen to h2, this delivers check. Only square the king can go is to g5. And now queen to d2. So attacking the king, and if the king moves, black will lose his queen. For example, king to f6. Now queen captures queen and white is winning. So black needs to block this, otherwise he will lose the queen. Knight to f4. And now there is a checkmate in 1. Queen to d8. Black cannot block this check, and black is kind of smothering in his own pieces, so he is not able to move to any of these squares. And also the pawn here is controlling the h5 and f5 square, and the queen is controlling this diagonal. Thank you guys for watching this video all the way to the end. We worked very hard to deliver a good end product, and we hope you guys enjoyed this video, of course. And we hope to see you in our next video. Bye bye.